Like homing pigeons, we keep circling back to the holding environment. That's not an accident. That's not because we have nothing to talk about. We always have plenty of things to talk about. It's that the 8 worldly winds are tiring, and we know that. So we keep circling back, touching down, touching in, coming back inside, feeling for a sense of calm and stability, a sense of care and kindness. This serves as a place that we can recalibrate, restore, refresh, and renew. When we feel back into that stability and that sense of care and kindness, we come back into that feeling of at home. You know that feeling of at home in ourselves, at home in our skin, at home with wherever we are right now, with whomever we're with, or the at-homeness we feel in our home, where we live. Or remember back into a sense of welcomingness, like a dear friend's kind eyes that communicate without words that we're okay just as we are. That's a relief. That's what we want on some level, is to feel accepted and acceptable, loved and lovable, just as we are. And it's a new move. It's a really new move. It's counterintuitive to deliberately bring attention to this starting point, not once, but many times. Because you see, we learn through repetition. Like homing pigeons, we learn through repetition. The more we return to the foundation, the stronger it becomes. The more we return, the more we get a feel for it. And the more we get a feel for it, the easier it is to access, to find our way back to center. And why is this more centered starting point so important? Well, because a stable foundation is really everything. It goes back to architecture, like to building buildings or building a boat. The teachings often refer to this building of a boat, building of a raft, that raft being the starting point, a home base, a port in the storm, a refuge, a safe harbor. This is how it's referred to in the teachings. And the raft is indeed portable. We build a portable holding environment that goes with us wherever we go, so that wherever we are, there it is. That's what we're building through practice, through the repetition of practice. We build an inner holding environment that helps you weather the storm, helps you feel more stable, more steady, more grounded in the present moment, where you can gather, where you can regather, regroup, resettle, where you can open up, where you can catch your breath, where you can rest your weary bones and feel back into some okayness, where we can unwind from the story, the drama, the angst, the twizzle, the hard stuff, and let whatever remains be accepted just as we are, just as it is, because it really is a come as you are party. You learn to set up the holding environment, and each time the mind wanders away, each time we notice that the mind has wandered away, and we notice that, we take a breath, and we come back in. We tether the breath to the body to the ground, and we let the dust settle. We feel back into something that feels a bit more comfortable, steady, and stable. This is the kind of starting point. This is the kind of holding environment we want to create and keep coming back to for ourselves, for our welfare. And the emphasis is on not just creating it once, but coming back and recreating it, creating a welcoming place out of what once was a disturbance, right? We come back in and we set up again that hospitable environment. It takes a minute, as they say these days. It takes a minute to do that, all right? A little bit of time, a little bit of practice to get a feel for like allowing the dust to settle, letting the rattle subside, and out of that emerge a kind of quiet and settledness, right? Remember back in the days before the pandemic of 2020, which is likely how it'll be remembered, how after a long day's work out in the concrete jungle, we'd come back and we'd flop on the couch, on the floor, on the grass. We'd welcome coming home and relaxing and getting that sense of comfort and ease. It was such a relief, right? Think about it. That's what we were going for. Like we wanted to feel, oh my gosh, let me just kind of come back to center. Let me feel a little bit more at home in my skin. Not out there, but in here. And that's what we're doing. This is why the Buddha's first instruction was so important, to deliberately set up the conditions for practicing mindfulness, body, breath, heart, and mind, and orienting it toward goodwill and ease of well-being, right? In other words, we don't just plop down on the cushion and suddenly we're meditating. We actually have to set it up. And once we set it up, understand that your practice is only as strong as that foundation. The holding environment is just a handhold to help us feel into that foundational posture of well-being. That's all it is. So if you will, for a moment, go with me on a little inquiry. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. Just close your eyes for a few moments and consider, where in your life have you felt at home? Have you felt more comfortable in your skin? Where you felt safe, at ease, considered? Where or when? Got that? Now, what did that at homeness feel like? Inside, how does it feel? Can you feel maybe a little more of that breathing room, a little more settledness, a little more ease? Okay. Okay, you can open your eyes now. Now, each of us sitting here has their own experience, but knows for themselves within their own experience what that feels like. This is a marker for you, not me. We all have our own markers. This gives you information, a reference point for how to set up the holding environment. Use this marker. Use the felt experience marker like a cairn on a trail, like a path marker for coming home, to feel into something that feels good enough to settle in and to soothe in. So I'll tell you a story. I've done a lot of retreats, over these years, done a lot of retreats. And, I can tell you quite honestly, where I felt at home at a retreat center. Now, if you've never been on a retreat before, let me just give you a little setup. Everything on the grounds is community space, except your bedroom. The dining room, the hallways, the bathrooms, the meditation hall, the outside property, it's all common space. And so your room becomes your sanctuary, your little safe place, your little safe haven, your little homey spot right there where those little belongings are, your little domain where you can settle back and relax. And I noticed that I would open the door, I'd close the door, and as I closed the door, there'd be a sigh of relief, like, and I'm like, I'm here. I could just relax just a little bit of my trying, my effort at being mindful, right? That holding myself to be mindful every moment, which is near impossible, right? So I come back to my room and I'd ease off. I take my foot off the brake. I'd ease off a little bit and just lay on the bed, relax, rest my eyes, look out the window, let the body breathe, let the body like loosen some of the tension from sitting upright all the time, and allow just my mind and my body to feel a little more spacious. Those moments are really important in practice because they offset that push, the doing, the trying to be mindful, right? So you want to notice where those moments are, because we actually do this in daily life too. We're running and pushing through our day all day long, but interspersed in our day, we have these little places that we find where we can, have a little more breathing room, have a little reprieve from the pressure. And boy, they're important. You're out in the world, you're out working in offices and factories and the concrete jungle. Yeah, we need to find these little respites, these little ports in the storm. Oh my gosh, where would we be without them? So notice where you kind of do that, where you kind of recalibrate and you take a breath and you relax some of the tension, some of the vigilance, like, oh, yeah, oof. Right? Now, if you begin to notice that, we can be a little bit more deliberate and take full advantage of those moments, because that's like the organism naturally trying to recalibrate itself. Just ride the wave of that. Just try to ride the wave of recalibrating. Feel your way back into that sense of good enough, that sense of, oh, all right, I can make some room here. It's uncomfortable, but let me just open the body up and soften and just turn my mind toward something that's more spacious, like looking at the sky or just feeling more comfortable. Keep feeling back into that sense of home base, because the organism remembers that, like, oh, the organism remembers when, oh, it's relaxed, and it kind of like, it feels so much better, goes, oh, like a sigh of relief. It's much better getting out of the mind, much better getting off the hamster wheel of thinking. It never stops chattering. It's always trying to strategize, getting, to get out of the way. No, just come back to the present moment. Come back to the body breathing. The body is always present. Breathing is always happening in the present moment in a body. Right? Give attention to the starting point. Give attention to returning, not once, but many times. On the cushion, off the cushion. We learn through repetition. Come back in for a landing. Come back to the nest, just like a homing pigeon. Come back home and feel that sense of welcoming. Really feel that sense of welcoming. Come back as many times as you need. Start where you are. Use the felt experience marker of what it's felt like to feel at home enough as your guide. And meet yourself right where you are, just as you are.